Thank you very much for joining us. I am Iyori Folani. Okay, well, yesterday, President Tinubu announced quite a number of, he signed some executive orders affecting the taxation policy and the business community generally. So we'll talk about that, and my guest this morning is Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu, the African Democratic Congress candidate in the 2023 presidential election. Good morning to you, Mr. Kachikwu.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
Again, always our pleasure. Okay, as I sort of indicated, we're going to be looking at, fixing the economy, what Tinubu must do. And yesterday, you know, through his special advisor, you know, he was speaking, Dele Alake. He has given a number of executive orders, has been explained to us, been hearing that business communities are giving the nod that, aha, it looks as if people are going to, at least this administration, understands the lie of the ground and is moving to, you know, unburden businesses, take some of the burdens that businesses have been borne. Talking here specifically about multiple taxations. But as Tinubu's reforms have been well received, both internationally, not to mention locally here, I imagine that these things, as I was saying just before we went on air, there's something of an accountancy principle to it. Whatever happens on the debit side must affect what the credit side is looking like and the other way around. Give me your impressions, if you will, on Tinubu and his efforts at tackling our almost comatose economy so far.
Okay, great. We must look at the economy from the point of view of where we are coming from, the impacts the last administration, their actions and inactions had on the economy, where we say the economy totally collapsed. We are looking at what the current president is doing. If you take the reaction of the organized private sector, a lot of them they are saying that he is doing well so far, but he needs to do a lot more. The market is reacting positively. But the challenge, or what most people don't see, is that when you take certain actions that support positively the organized private sector, what we fail to realize is that Nigeria is underpinned largely by the informal sector. So as the president issues executive orders that help the organized private sector, he must also start critically looking at the informal sector. How do you help the young men and women who are doing business today, who are impacted by our economy, by the redesign, naira redesign policy, and by the subsidy removal? What kind of executive orders are you going to put in place to support them? I saw some of the orders yesterday and how tax suspension and reduction. More has got to be done in that area because, like I always say to people, the first point of inflation in the economy is at the ports. And what the last government did to shore up their revenue base, seeing that they were failing in all areas, was to tax, increase taxation. Considering that they were not putting anything back in, the economy was still failing. So people who are already struggling, you can't overtax them. But what this president must now do is that the savings he's made in subsidy removal, what I have advised should be a temporary removal, he should put that savings back into the people, investing in the people. So number one, Nigerian people are the most industrious, the most creative people on planet Earth. How do you unleash their creative potential so that they impact on the global economy? They are able to emerge on the world stage. You must start investing in these people, training, retutoring, retooling. I have long said that we have to look at low skill sets, take our colleges of education, take our teacher training colleges, take our polytechnics, and start training people in skill sets relevant to the economy of today, so that we can unleash that potential in Africa and the greater world. so our people can go out there, just like what the Indians and Chinese are doing all over the world. We ought to get our people out there. Right now, we're exporting high-paying skill sets to the rest of the world. And when we are doing that, just like what we see with our doctors and nurses living in Nigeria, it impacts our economy. We need our middle-class base to stay in Nigeria. We should export the lower skill set because those people go out there and send dollars that our economy needs. We also have to start unlocking potentials in other sectors, like the blue economy. If you see what Vietnam, Samoa, Kenya, what all these people are doing in the blue economy now, look at our ocean line. We are absolutely doing nothing. Those people who reside in those areas are just there breaking pipelines. They are in a degraded environment. We must unleash the potential there so that we can start exporting and creating good-paying jobs there. If we look at agriculture, I've also said that whoever this president brings as the Minister of Agriculture is key to his success in this administration. Were he to focus on oil and gas and neglect agriculture, solid minerals, he will fail like other presidents. We can no longer pay lip service to agriculture and solid minerals. We need to take sustainable actions in those sectors. I have said, solid minerals, we have the Chinese, the Indians coming to take our raw materials out of Nigeria. We need to start issuing executive orders that says, anybody who wants those solid minerals, you can come in here, but you must process those solid minerals in Nigeria and then export the finished products. So that way, you are creating good-paying jobs in Nigeria. As again, just taking solid minerals and who benefits? The local chiefs and what have you. Again, we now look at the digital economy. The last administration issued a lot of white papers and said a lot about the digital economy. But again, I refer to India, what India has done, what they are doing in America, even Vietnam again, China. The digital economy is what you use to unleash the potential of our youths today. We are speaking about double-digit unemployment rates, and we have people who are largely schooled, who right now, their digital economy is Yahoo and defrauding people. But can you imagine if you retool those people to start selling services to the larger world? Imagine if our architects who are redundant, who don't have jobs today, if they're selling architectural services just with their internet to the rest of the world. What of engineering design? There's nothing you cannot sell through the internet, but we must retool our people. We must make broadband affordable. Broadband should no longer be an asset that only the rich can afford. Broadband is a right, a fundamental right, just like water and light. Today, we must start growing that infrastructure across Nigeria. If you look at the trunk of what the telecom services have done, they focus on the commercial areas where they are getting good revenues. But what happens is that you now have people, our middle class, leaving the rural areas and all migrating to Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt. What do you think happens to places like Asaba, Pokistum, Zaria? What happens? If the middle class leaves those areas, those cities die. So we must start, the president must work with the governors to see how they can start creating new urban economies, new urban environments, master planning new cities that ensures that people no longer see the need to come to Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, but people can reside in Asaba, in Benin, in any of the smaller cities, because whatever they get in Abuja, they will have in those cities. You need to create an enabling environment for our president to succeed. I have said this time and time again. His team, the people he chooses to work with, will determine his success. We'll see it in the next 3 months. Right now, he's on a honeymoon period, and where we can excuse a lot of things. He's doing better than the last president because he's working in a very measured manner. Or, like I've said, he's actually sprinting. In the next 3 months, we'll now know if the sprint is heading in the right direction. And it is his team, the kind of people he has assembled around him, that will, by and large, determine that.
At the very top, I just wanted to clear this before my next question. You spoke in relation to the fuel subsidy removal. You spoke of temporary removal of fuel subsidy. I didn't understand that. Maybe I could just clear that up before going further.
Okay, let's take Venezuela as an example right now. We saw what happened when they removed fuel subsidy. We see their economy today in tatters. Fuel, carbon is a God-given resource to Nigerians. There's no reason why Nigerians should be paying the same price others are paying all over the world for that resource, just because the government has not been able to manage the process of fuel subsidy. It's not the fault of Nigerians. It's the fault of government that's not been able to police or put in place a good structure that ensures that the process is there, takes the subsidy to the people who need the subsidy. So President Tinubu had no choice. He was forced back into the corner to take out subsidy because the former president didn't even provide for subsidy in the budget. Now, having done that, what didn't happen was that there was no palliative structure. Now, you're taking a decision and retroactively or after taking a decision, you are now thinking about your palliative structure. Pillars that we are getting is that a lot of people seem to believe that you need to do cash transfers to people, which what we saw when the last administration did that, people abused that system and to be abused again. What will I do if I were the president of Nigeria today? I'll look at my NNPC filling stations and for example, where we have inflation is cost of transportation today. I will ensure that NNPC is selling fuel to transporters, registered transporters, be it Uber registered, be it our long-haul transporters who are registered, and they are selling to those people still at the subsidized rate because the subsidy fraud was not with NNPC, it was with other marketers. So NNPC can continue selling to transporters so that we ensure that the civil servants, those at the lower rung of the ladder who don't have vehicles, don't suffer the high cost of transport that we're seeing today. I will also ensure that that subsidy that is removed, we must say, what did we take $800 million, $1 billion, what did we use it to do today? Did we invest in new infrastructure? Did we invest in training 10 million Nigerians, 1 million Nigerians? Did we invest in new hospitals? Did we invest in schools? What did we use that money to do? Nobody should hear like what President Buhari did, that they took money and they said that they were giving money to people, only they are the only ones who know those people. That must not be done by this government. We must see where that saving has gone into so that all Nigerians can benefit. Is it our security architecture? There are areas where we are underserved in Nigeria where we can take the savings into so that Nigerians, when they are feeling this pinch, when they are making sacrifice, when they see tomorrow what they got out of this, they nod in appreciation and say, okay, we are better off for it. So that's what I mean that, so, and also back to your question about this, about being it temporary. For the next 3-4 months, I expect that this president should put in place a foolproof subsidy scheme that ensures that subsidy gets to the people, that people don't abuse this, that our marketers don't take these products out of Nigeria to sell for higher margins. If they put in place a better scheme, they can then reintroduce subsidy. Remember, we were suffering because we had almost 40 million liters unaccounted for. We were subsidizing other nations. Once the president is able to plug those loopholes, you can reintroduce subsidy and Nigerians will be grateful, will smile because it's a gift that God gave to Nigerians.
Okay. Now, your answer has prompted another question that I hadn't thought about, but since you went there, when you were speaking about the example, the possibility, for instance, of NNPC filling stations, you know, and all you said about that, I wonder what your thoughts are. Would that include, would it include things like CNG and LPG, for example, or no, we're just talking about the liquid fuels that we know, the diesel and the petrol?
The reality is that a lot of people have been speaking in recent times about CNG, LPG, and what have you. Our problem is not a problem of the alternatives, it's a problem of the system. So whatever alternatives we bring in place will still suffer the same effects in Nigeria. You want to bring in CNG and LPG, it means that someone has got to bear the cost of the skids and the kits in all the vehicles in Nigeria. It's a huge cost. Why can't our refineries work? If you look at what's happened in the last 16 years, and all the money that they put in refineries, for refineries that were not working. If you have a president that says, investigate this, arrest and prosecute these people, I'm telling you, the problem we have in Nigeria is that nothing happens to people when they abuse a system. And that's why the system continues to be abused. If you see China and other countries where people are assiduously, diligently prosecuted, people don't commit the kind of crimes we commit here. Our crimes smack of so much impunity that we marvel, the world marvels. How can somebody commit such a crime on such a large scale and nothing happens to the person? But if we can diligently prosecute these people, how can you speak of subsidy fraud in the trillions of naira? Trillions of naira. Nigerians, over 150-80 million Nigerians are suffering today because a few people who are less than 1,000 people committed fraud. We are all suffering. And then we say, let's look the other way. Let's ignore these people and let's start saying remove subsidy. And then, why should we do that? Who are these people? We know them. The system knows them. NNPC knows these people. You ignore them and while we're all suffering? No. This president must do something about this so that they don't come in another sector to undermine Nigerians, undermine our economy. Economic fraud to that extent is treasonable. So we must do something about this.
Okay.